Slugga Tee walked out of prison into a city that don't sound like it did when he left. 7 years. 7 years gone, and when he came home, the whole Jacksonville drill scene was on life support. The sound that put this city on the map, the one that had labeled scouts flying into Duval and A&Rs refreshing YouTube at 2 in the morning, that sound had gone quiet. Not because nobody was rapping, because the people who made it what it was ain't here no more. And the biggest one of them was his homie. While Slugga Tee was locked up, Foolio got his taco tap. He wasn't there for it, couldn't be there for it. He found out the way everybody else in the world found out, except he found out on the inside, in a place where you can't go nowhere, can't do nothing, can't even sit with it right. Just the news and then the walls. That's what he came home to. A dead scene, a dead friend, and a version of Jacksonville that moved on without him. And now, this little demon is back in them cars looking for get back for Foolio. Before we get into any of it, understand something about this city. Because if you don't understand Jacksonville, none of the rest of this is gonna make sense. Jacksonville is the biggest city in the lower 48 by land area. Bigger than Miami, bigger than Tampa. Bigger than most people picture when they hear Florida, because most people hear Florida and they think beaches and tourists in South Beach. Jacksonville ain't that. Jacksonville is a working city, a port city, a military city, and it's spread out in a way that keeps people separated from each other. And it's cut up. You got the north side, you got the west side, you got the east side. And inside those, you got neighborhoods that function like they're their own separate towns. Moncrief, Newtowns, Grand Park, Ribault, Sherwood. These ain't just addresses, these are identities. Where you from in Duval determines who you can be around, what streets you can drive down, what stores you can walk into, and in a lot of cases, what your music is gonna sound like. That geography matters more than people realize. In a dense city, everybody's on top of each other, and conflicts either resolve or explode fast. In a spread out city, groups can stay separated for years, build their own worlds, build their own histories, and the distance lets the grudges harden instead of cooling off. Jacksonville's got the sprawl of a suburb and the tension of a much smaller, tighter place. And that combination did something specific to the music. Because most cities that produced a rap sound, the sound came from one neighborhood and spread outward. Chicago drill came out of the south side. Detroit's sound came out of the east side. Jacksonville was different. Jacksonville's sound came out of the conflict itself. The music was the scoreboard. That's what made it hit so hard. And that's what made it so dangerous. Now, Slugga Tee, he's Y&R, young and ruthless. That's a north side crew, and it's got its own identity, its own name, its own thing going. But it don't exist in a vacuum. Y&R sits under a bigger umbrella. And to understand that umbrella, you gotta understand what happened in Jacksonville in the late 2010s. Around that time, a bunch of separate Jacksonville sets that have been operating on their own started pulling together under one banner. Groups that had their own histories, their own turf, their own leadership, consolidating. That banner was KTA. And within KTA, the foundational piece, the anchor, the oldest and most established faction, was 6 Block out of Moncrief. Foolio came out of Moncrief. Foolio was 6 Block. Foolio was KTA. Now here's where people get it twisted. So let me be precise about it, because the details actually matter here. Slugga Tee is not 6 Block. He never was. The anchor, the oldest and most established faction, was 6 Block out of Moncrief. Y&R is affiliated with KTA, and the Y&R brand operates as one of the pillars inside that broader network. So Slugga Tee and Foolio weren't in the same set. They were under the same banner pointed at the same people. And that's the whole story of how Slugga Tee ended up in a war that didn't start with him. Because on the other side of that line, you got ATK. And ATK is headed by Young and Ace. KTA and ATK have been going at each other for years. Long-running, deeply entrenched, generational at this point. It's the central conflict of the entire Jacksonville rap scene. And damn near every artist that came out of that city in the last decade is positioned somewhere on one side of it or the other. There's almost no neutral ground. There's barely any artists who managed to stay out of it entirely. And the ones who did, mostly did it by leaving. And this is the key thing to understand. It's not a rap beef that spilled into the streets. It's a street conflict that spilled into rap. The order matters. In a lot of cities, you get 2 artists who start beefing over music and it escalates. In Jacksonville, the conflict existed first, and the music became one more front in it. The songs weren't the cause. The songs were the documentation. When Y&R aligned with the KTA side, Y&R inherited ATK as ops. Not because of anything Slugga Tee personally did, because of where he's from and who he's with. That's how it works down there. You don't pick your enemies in Jacksonville. Your zip code picks them for you. A 16-year-old in Moncrief has a list of people he's supposed to have problems with before he's ever met any of them. And I want to be straight with you about something, because a lot of channels covering this ain't. There's a whole lot of specific incidents that get passed around about who did what to who in this conflict. Parties, shootings, retaliations, ambushes, all of it with names attached. Most of it comes to us through diss records and comment sections. Some of it has been in court. A lot of it hasn't. I'm not going to sit here and narrate accusations against people who ain't been charged with them, because that's how these situations get worse. And honestly, that's how the body count grows. Every time somebody puts a name and an incident together on a channel like this, that clip gets screenshotted and it goes right back into the city. What I'll tell you is what's structural and what's documented. Two networks, KTA and ATK, at war for years, and Y&R positioned firmly on the KTA side of it. That's the terrain Slugga Tee came up in. If you want the incident by incident version, there's 100 channels that'll give it to you. I'd rather give you the part that's actually true. Now let's talk about the music, because this is the part that actually matters for what happens next. Jacksonville drill hit different from every other regional drill scene, and there's a specific reason for that. It's not just vibes, there's actual craft distinctions. Chicago drill was cold, detached. The delivery was almost numb, deliberately flat, and the production was sparse and menacing. Those hollow 808s, the horror movie melodies, tons of space in the mix. The whole aesthetic was emotional distance. That was the point. It sounded like somebody past feeling anything. Brooklyn drill went a different direction. Brooklyn took the UK production template, those sliding elastic bass lines that move around underneath the beat instead of just hitting, and put New York cadences on top of it. Brooklyn drill was rhythmic. It was about the pocket. It was almost danceable, which is why it crossed over the way it did. Jacksonville drill was neither of those. Jacksonville drill was emotional. It was raw. It was guys who had lost people rapping about losing people, and you could hear it in the delivery. That strained, cracking, pushed to the front vocal that sounded like somebody about to lose it. The vocal sat way up in the mix, dry, barely processed, so you heard every break in the voice. The melodies were mournful. A lot of those beats had piano or organ in them, church instruments, gospel bones under street lyrics. That combination is why it traveled. That's why kids in Ohio and Texas and London were rapping Jacksonville lyrics word for word without ever setting foot in Florida. The specificity was local, the street names, the sets, the references only people from Duval would catch, but the feeling was universal. Everybody understands grief. Everybody understands anger. Everybody understands the specific rage of losing somebody young and having nowhere to put it. That's the thing that most people who imitate the sound get wrong. They copy the aggression and miss the grief. The aggression was never what made it work, and Foolio was the best at it. That's just the truth. Whatever you think about him, whatever side you're on, the man could make a record. He had a sense of melody that most street rappers don't have. That's rare, and it's not teachable. He had timing. He knew when to come in, when to leave space, when to let a line sit. He knew how to write a hook that lodged in your head after one listen. And he had a personality that came through the speakers, which is the hardest thing of all. He was funny, he was petty, he was charismatic in a way that made you want to hear the next one just to see what he'd say. He built an audience that was way bigger than his neighborhood, way bigger than his city, way bigger than the conflict he was in. People who had no idea what 6 Block was, who couldn't find Moncrief on the map, who didn't know a single name in the beef, they knew Foolio songs. He was the load-bearing wall of that whole scene. And I don't think anybody understood how load-bearing until he was gone. Because here's what happened after. The pipeline stopped. Think about what a healthy regional scene actually needs mechanically. It needs somebody at the top who's big enough to pull national attention to the city. One artist whose success makes the industry look at the whole place. It needs a middle tier of artists who are getting real numbers, real shows, real money. so there's a visible middle class of rappers. And it needs a bottom tier of young guys who see the path and start recording because they can see with their own eyes that it's possible. Jacksonville had all three. For a stretch around 2019 through 21, it had one of the most active regional scenes in the country. And then, in the space of a few years, it got hollowed out. Artists died. Artists caught cases. Artists got locked up on federal indictments. The top of the pyramid got knocked off, and when the top goes, the middle stops climbing, and the bottom stops starting. That's what people mean when they say Jacksonville drill is dying. It's not that nobody's making music down there. Kids are recording every day. It's that the machine broke. The ladder don't got rungs no more. A young dude in Moncrief in 2026 who's got real bars. Where's he going? Who's he opening for? Who's putting him on? Who's the local artist with enough juice to put a feature on his song and change his life? Half the people who would have done that are dead, and the other half are in a federal building somewhere. And Jacksonville ain't the first scene this happened to. This is a pattern. Chicago drill went through the exact same collapse about a decade earlier. Same shape, explosive national attention, a handful of stars, and then the killings and the RICO cases and the prison sentences, and within a few years, the scene that had every label in America flying into Chicago couldn't sustain itself. Some of the artists who survived it had to leave the city entirely to have a career. The ones who stayed mostly didn't get one. The pattern's consistent enough that you can almost set your watch by it. A scene built on documenting a conflict has an expiration date because the conflict eventually consumes the people documenting it. The music can't outlive its own subject matter. That's the trap, and that's exactly the situation Slugga Tee walked into. Now let's talk about 7 years, because I don't think people understand what that actually means for a rapper. 7 years is a long time in any context. In rap, 7 years is a geological era. Think about what changed. When he went in, the industry ran on YouTube and SoundCloud and getting a video on the right channel. Blogs still mattered. World stars still mattered. A regional artist broke by putting out a video that racked up views organically and then getting a cosign from somebody bigger. And that was a path you could actually see and follow. He came home to TikTok being the entire promotional apparatus. He came home to streaming payouts that pay fractions of a cent, to playlist placement being the difference between a career and a hobby, to an algorithm deciding whether anybody hears you at all. He came home to a world where the 15 seconds of your song that go viral matter more than the song does, where labels check your engagement metrics before they check your music, where artists are expected to be content creators first and musicians second, posting every day, building a personality online, feeding the machine constantly. He came home to AI voices, to snippet culture, to sped up versions and slowed versions of records circulating before the original gets heard. That's a lot to catch up on. And most guys don't. Most guys come home, drop something that sounds like the year they went in, get lukewarm numbers, wonder why it ain't hitting, and quietly fade. That's the standard outcome. It's not a talent thing. It's that the world reorganized itself while they were somewhere they couldn't watch. But there's something else about coming home that almost nobody talks about, and it's maybe the most important practical thing in this whole story. Depending on how somebody comes out, parole, probation, supervised release, there's usually conditions attached. And those conditions can be brutal for a rapper specifically. Association restrictions. You often can't knowingly associate with other convicted felons. Now think about who's in a rap video. Think about who's in the studio. Think about who's on the block in the neighborhood you grew up in. A condition like that can make it functionally illegal to shoot the kind of video that made your name. Travel restrictions. You typically need permission to leave the district. That's touring. That's out-of-town shows, that's studio sessions in Atlanta or Miami. That's flying out for a feature. Every one of those becomes a paperwork problem. And if the answer's no, it's no. Curfews. Studio time is nighttime. Always has been. And then there's the big one. Your music can be used against you. Prosecutors across the country have spent the last several years using rap lyrics as evidence in criminal trials. Bars quoted in indictments, music videos entered as exhibits, songs used to establish gang affiliation, to establish motive, to establish that a defendant was part of a criminal enterprise. There have been major racketeering prosecutions built substantially on artists' own lyrics and social media. There's been pushback. Some states have moved to limit it, artists and labels have lobbied against it, but it's still happening, and it happens most aggressively in exactly the kind of case a Jacksonville drill artist would be exposed to. So when I ask, what does Slugga Tee rap about now? Understand that's not just an artistic question. For somebody who just did 7 years and is likely on paper, it's a legal question. Every conflict bar is a potential exhibit. Every video with the wrong people in it is a potential violation. The music that would get the most immediate views is the music most likely to send him back. That's the box he's in. And it's a real box, not a hypothetical one. Now here's the flip side, and it's the reason people in Duval are actually paying attention to this one. Scarcity. There's an audience out there, a big one, that's been waiting on real Jacksonville drill for years and hasn't gotten it. Not imitation. Not somebody from another city doing the sound with the serial numbers filed off. The actual thing, from somebody who was actually there, who came up in it, who's got the credibility that can't be manufactured. Slugga Tee's got something almost nobody in that lane has right now. He's authentic to a moment people are nostalgic for, and he wasn't around long enough to get overexposed. He didn't drop 50 mixtapes that diluted his name. He didn't have a public flame out, didn't have a bad album cycle, didn't wear out his welcome. He was just gone, and now he's back. That's a genuinely rare position. In the streaming era, absence is almost impossible to manufacture on purpose. The whole system punishes you for not posting, and it's incredibly valuable when it happens by accident. People are curious. People want to hear what 7 years sounds like. That curiosity is a real asset, and it has a shelf life. 6 months from now, the people wondering what he sounds like will have stopped wondering. Attention like that don't renew itself. You get one window where the whole city and a chunk of the internet is leaning in waiting to hear you. And what you put in that window decides what the next 5 years look like. Now here's the question that determines everything. And I want to be honest that nobody knows the answer yet, including probably him. What does he do with it? Because there's 2 roads out of here and they lead to completely different places. Road 1 is the one everybody expects. He comes home, he picks up exactly where the conflict left off, he addresses everything and everybody, he names names, and he makes the music the scoreboard again. And I'll be real with you, that road works commercially in the short term. Conflict records get views. They always have. The audience for that is enormous, and it's immediate. He'd get numbers in the first week that a Road 2 record might take a year to build to. The problem with Road 1 is that it's got a ceiling, and the ceiling is made of concrete and headstones. Everybody who's gone all the way down that road in Jacksonville has ended up in the same 2 places. Every single one. That's not moralizing, that's just the record. Go look at the list of names that were the biggest thing in that city in 2019 and count how many are free and breathing right now. It's a short count. And add to that everything I just said about lyrics as evidence and supervised release conditions. Road 1 for a man fresh off 7 years isn't just risky in the street sense. It's the fastest available route back inside, and it doesn't even require anybody to do anything to him. He can do it to himself, on record, voluntarily. Road 2 is harder and slower, and it's the one that actually rebuilds something. Road 2 is, he uses the credibility to be the top of the pyramid instead of a participant in the war. He's got the name, he's got the respect, he's got the connection to the era people miss. If he puts out records that are about what he actually went through, 7 years of it, coming home to a friend in the ground, walking through a neighborhood that don't look the same, seeing the little homies grown up, seeing which ones made it and which ones didn't. That's not soft. That's the most Jacksonville thing you could possibly make. That's where Foolio's best records were. Go back and listen. The ones that stuck, the ones that traveled outside Florida, the ones people still play. They weren't the ones about the ops. They were the ones about the loss. The grief records outlived the conflict records every single time. That's not a coincidence, and it's not a coincidence anywhere in rap. The scoreboard songs are disposable because the scoreboard keeps changing. The grief songs are permanent because the grief is. And if he goes that way and it works, the latter gets a rung back. Young dudes down there see somebody come home and win without dying for it. That's the thing that's been missing. Not talent. Jacksonville has never had a talent shortage, not for a single day. What has been missing is a survivable path. A visible example of somebody who went through the worst of it and came out the other side with a career instead of a case. I don't know which road he takes. I don't think it's fair for me or anybody else watching this to pretend we know what it's like to walk out of 7 years into that. There's people down there who expect certain things from him. There's history he didn't get to close out. There's a friend he didn't get to bury. There's probably pressure from every direction. Some of it from people who love him, and some of it from people who just want the content. That's a lot of weight to carry into a recording booth. And whatever he does with it, he's the one who's got to live with it. Not us, not the comments. But I'll say this, the reason this story is worth paying attention to ain't the beef. The beef is the least interesting part, and it's the part that already killed the scene once. Anybody can list ops. That's the laziest video you can make about Jacksonville, and there's 1,000 of them already. The interesting part is that this city produced one of the most emotionally powerful regional sounds in American rap in the last 20 years. A sound built out of real grief that connected with people who'd never been within 1,000 miles of Duval. And it got dismantled. Not by the industry, not by trends, not by the sound going out of style. From the inside. And now somebody's come home who was there at the start of it, who's got the respect to matter, and who's got a genuinely open lane in front of him at a moment when nobody else is feeling it. That doesn't happen often. Usually by the time somebody comes home, the door's already closed and somebody else is standing in it. His door is open. For now. Doors don't stay open long. So watch what he drops. Watch what he talks about. Watch who's in the videos. Watch whether the records are about where he's been or about who he's against. Because that's going to tell you real quick whether Jacksonville Drill is coming back or whether we're about to watch the same movie again with a different name on the poster and the same ending. Duval's produced too much talent to keep burying it. Hopefully this one's different.